ana abantu bagwama amanya gati menye kendere bei bakusabe lamwa kati yensonga okulaba nga nula abayigabana Uganda
abwese wesero gwesobanya ampuliza eno Shalom Television Uganda zo bulungi abantu arasokwera mu kulembeze kale nze kimaze envide ku mutwe kwe kubeera nga ebinedi mesiza ka trading center kwa kuwa kunga njaba mtudawa
ate parasha ngesinu mwadolo ngese ala kunitunga ngora mazani twale kanji
ensonga azogedde abadde agamba atino mwetegefu era musanyufu nnyo alindidde okulaba ku mukulembeze His Excellency era agenda kubeera nga amulabako kwatyo abadde nga muri Soroti ensonga wano kambye tuli ku Ibra ogambo tia Aisha ogambo tia kimuluma ogambo tia ensonga tuli wane no president agenda kulai ogambo Yes, I'm giving him. Emirimu gwesoba nyabo ampuliriza mbona president wa muwadde enene gakyali wanda nanyini sente yagamba ko nabwe nabaluleta the route. Waliwo tulengera okuva Moroto Alfred liwa kabi nnyo konsano kagwaga kabaka enza mutamukeera nnyo kubanga batulindiridde obwedda enza butabato nnyonyonyo sina oli wa kabi nnyonyo butanasanga mwebale kulanirira nsi Extreme Media Uganda abatulengera ku Extreme Media Uganda temukola kya kabi nnyo just subscribe to the channel ati kulenga tambadala bulungi nyonyo update us big up on air. Okay, chakavinyo tina mwana ali solid chakavinyo tina road nasanga mwana mumbeji mwera musoto nda kwenda kusokwera nga gole Derrick agona ku lwalero mu abantu abana aba coordinator omubako edda bulungi erabera ngende bo bali mwezo kwera nga nduki abantu mucha tometa menaganya beva ati ogenda kubeera nga ajja era kakasene twali alaba sheyaga na Soroti gosaba nyabo ampuliriza okukola bamwe bonna bataginga batasande is expected to be in Kisoro Monday ku makya mwebalire ddala Uganda engala busira ali n'ebyamutwako mwabimanya olw'ensonga ezo ku televisioni wiso City. Inakuwa kuite.
You have seen everything the Lord your God has done for you during my lifetime. The Lord your God has fought for you against your enemies. Deep in your hearts, you know that every promise of the Lord your God has come true. Not a single one. Would you prefer the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates? Or will it be the gods of the Amorites in whose land you now live? But as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. In chapter 24, verse 15. The book of Joshua, the sixth book of the Bible, and the first book was the Patriarch's land. The years and decades of wandering are done. God's people can now finally enter into the land across a river. There are many obstacles that await them, and that is what we see in the book of Joshua. Joshua reads like an epic story in and of itself. It is in this book that we see God's miracle at the Jordan River, that we meet Rahab and how she protects the Israelite spies. We see that the Israelites come up against the mighty walls of Jericho and watch them crumble. It's in this book that's full of battles and renewed covenants. And then finally, we see that declaration that I read at the beginning, that as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Distinguished professor of Old Testament at Denver Seminary, and the author of a commentary on Joshua, Dr. Richard Hess. All right, I'm joined today by Dr. Richard Hess. Thank you for joining me today, Rick. I really appreciate your time as we dive into this book of Joshua. We have moved.
Delighted to be here. It's great, great to connect.
So as we've been doing with each of these books, I want to start with kind of the basic details. Now, again, I'm thinking of the listeners, maybe they've never read the book of Joshua. Maybe they've read it before, but they want to look at it in a new way. So let's get all on the same footing here, and let's talk about some of these basic details. I'm going to ask you it this way.
I think the short answer is no. There are some traditions that connect it with different writers. Even people like Samuel, the prophet, and others for some of these earlier historical books. Of course, Joshua is the main human
question. Yeah.
But the book itself claims to take place to east of the Jordan River, and they're waiting to cross over and enter the Promised Land. They've been wandering for 40 years, and different people have different views about the Exodus, and you probably get into that or have gotten into it. But I like 1220 or so BC.
Yeah.
So
okay,
3,200 years ago, give or take a few.
So it's helpful to put it into that context. Again, we've been talking about the Exodus so far. We've covered that a bit in going through Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers, and now we're moving into that next stage. So I'm curious because we aren't sure. As you said, there is some tradition around who may or may not have written the book, but there's not really in a sure.
The more important question is, what does the book contain?
Yeah.
What does it purport to represent? And does it represent that, according to the New Testament, and texts like 2 Timothy 3:16 and what have you, it is the Spirit of God who guides all the authors, the human authors, to write the words of the Old Testament, and that includes the book of Joshua. So there is here a common theme, a common thread, whoever may have written it, or however the process we begin with.
Good.
To understand
what has come to be my favorite question, to a hot seat by trying to